All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back. Hope you're having a great Friday. I am very excited to be streaming again. I was actually traveling last weekend, which is actually what we're going to be talking about tonight. Let's give people a couple minutes here just to get those notifications out. And if anybody else wants to watch the commercials, that always helps me out. And there's another way you can help out the channel. We will talk about that a little bit later on today. But while we're waiting for people to get their notifications and get through the ads and whatnot, let's go over a couple things on the channel. Number one, if my audio goes down at some point, or if y'all can't hear me, please put it in caps in chat, and I will try to catch that. I know about a month ago I had an issue where I was streaming for about 5 minutes and didn't catch it in the chat. Everybody was trying to tell me I had no audio, so I will definitely try to pay more attention to that. Number two, always welcome to disagree with me and anything I say on here. If you want to, you can put that in chat or you can put that in comments. But please be kind to my moderators. They give their time freely. They are not paid moderators. Appreciate that. Thank you, Dove Season. Good to see you. I see Cold War Prepper is here. And I saw Silver Scorpion Metals was here. Hope y'all are having a great night. Yeah, if you enjoy the content tonight at any point, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. We are going to talk about what you can do if you're stranded in an airport, if your flight is delayed, your flight is canceled, you're spending the overnight there and at a gate, and some of the travel hacks and tips that I've accumulated over the years. I do like to travel a lot, although it's getting more and more challenging with some of the things that are going on at the airports. We're going to talk about that. Wayne the Ungrateful Peasant, good to see you. Appreciate you. Any other housekeeping rules? I guess that's it. We're starting to think about our 5,000 subscriber giveaway. So pay attention for that. As the closer we get to it, the more details I'll give. But if you have a business or if you want to sponsor one of the giveaways through your channel, just reach out to me at businesswithsarge@gmail.com. And we'll make sure that you get credit for sponsoring whatever it is that you want to give away. And I guess that's it. I can't think of anything else. Housekeeping tonight. I don't know. Feel rusty. It's been a couple weeks, but it's good to be back. I missed y'all. I actually really look forward to these Friday night live streams and just connecting with the audience. I know most of the people who show up here on Friday nights are other content creators. So if you're in the chat and you would like your channel shouted out, just try to reach out to one of the mods there and see if they can post your link for you. Always support that. Always, part of the live streams here is that I like for people to network with each other. And there's always good channels in the chat. So, if you're here checking out my channel, I recommend you turn on the chat and also check out some of the other channels that will be linked here. God is great. It's good to see you. See if I missed anybody else here. Chrome Dome Omega is good to see you. I don't know. I'll have to check to see. I have a way to check to see if notifications go up, but I have to log into a different account to do that. So we'll see. Right now I've got about 9 people here, so we'll see. Anyways, thanks everybody for joining. And if you're lurking, thank you for hanging out as well. Let's get right into it. So I just got back from traveling to Massachusetts, which if you've been watching my channel for a long time, you know that that's where I'm originally from. That's where a lot of my family is. And then I lived, of course, for about 10 years in Kentucky before moving to South Carolina, which I believe is my permanent home. But life always has a way of throwing curveballs, so we'll see. Anyway, I'm here in South Carolina for now. And while I was up there, my stepdaughter got married, and she had a really cool beach party reception. So we got to go to that, and that was a lot of fun. And then I got to spend a couple days with my dad. Now, some of you who've been with my channel for a long time have seen my dad. I did an interview with him on some of the survival skills he learned when he was an 82nd Airborne paratrooper. So that video is out there. Maybe tomorrow I'll link it in the the end thing where you can put links for other videos. If I remember to get back to it. So you can also consider this kind of a continuation of video that I did a while back where I showed my airport survival kit. And if you haven't seen that, you can either look that up or I will try to, again, maybe tomorrow I'll put links in for that at the end of this video. But, the airport survival kit, what's funny is that a lot of people commented like, wow, you travel with a lot of stuff. I do. because of my experience and because of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. Sorry about the camera shake. Because of my experience and because of the things that we're going to talk about tonight, I do travel with a lot of stuff, and it makes my travel a lot more comfortable. And there might be some things in there that you didn't think of, so might be worth checking out that video. But so what happened on the way back? This is where the story starts to get interesting. So on the way back, I was supposed to fly with JetBlue. Now, I am not in this video bashing any particular airline. These problems that I'm going to talk about tonight are systemic. This is not like a JetBlue problem or American Airlines problem. This is, in fact, I like JetBlue a lot, and I've had probably the least amount of problems with JetBlue. So totally not bashing them. So my flight was supposed to start with JetBlue, and then I was supposed to have a turn and burn connection in JFK. And one of the problems that's been going on, this is not recent, I guess this is more in the last 5 years or so, is the connection flights are closer and closer to when your arrival flight, your first flight lands. So they board in these big airports, they board 30 minutes early. So if you've only got a 30-minute layover, which isn't really a layover, then you're really not going to make it. Your chances of making it to your connection are pretty slim. So I don't know why they're not spacing those out a little bit better. That's problem one. So I looked at it and I knew I was going to have not much time. So if there was any delays, I wasn't going to make that connector. So watching the board, I got there really early because my dad dropped me off and then he had to go work. So I was like, yeah, no problem. Drop me off at the airport. I'll hang out. I'll get some food. They got Wahlburgers there. Wahlburgers is good stuff. I can get some Dunkin' Donuts. I'll sit and I'll, do my social media, whatever. It's not a problem. So I was in the airport for quite a while. And I happened to look up at the board, and my flight got delayed, which I knew, like, it was delayed by an hour, which means I'm not making that connector. Oh, that's a good suggestion right there, Wayne. Let's see, put that up on the board. So I went up to the service desk for JetBlue. And fortunately, I was like the second one to notice this. So this is one of the things I'm going to talk about here is critical to be paying attention to your board, because if there's a change and you're going to have to deal with, you're going to have to change your flight or something like that, you want to be one of the first people in line, because the more more people that get in line, the more your options of getting on a different flight that's going to work for you are going to go down. So you want to be one of those first people in line. Fortunately, I was the second person in line. So I went up to the desk and I said, hey, it looks like my flight just got bumped or delayed. I'm sorry, my flight got delayed. Looks like I'm not going to make my connector. So she says, okay, no problem. We're going to get you on a different flight. So she gives me a flight for another JetBlue. And she says, but unfortunately, I got to put you on American Airlines for your second flight because we don't have a connector there. So I said, okay, no problem. I'll make that work. So she gives me my tickets and she says, okay, now you need to get down to a different gate. Okay. Not that far, a small walk, no big deal. So I get down to my gate, but on my way there, I'm reading my ticket and there's no seat number on it. So I got there. Unfortunately, there was a lady at the gate already. And I showed her and I said, does this mean I'm on standby? Because I remember I had a guaranteed seat on the other plane. So she says, no, you're not on standby. I'm gonna get you a seat. I'm gonna assign you a seat. So I was trying to remember her name. So shout out to Candy from JetBlue. You rock, because Candy helped me out. I told her, I said, hey, it looks like I'm going to Charlotte now. And when I get there, I've got to get to another terminal, not another gate, another terminal, because they put my second flight to American Airlines. Can you please put me near the front of the plane? And that way I don't have to wait, for everybody to disembark. And I definitely wasn't going to make my connector that way. So she did that. So thank you, Candy from JetBlue. You rock, girl. Appreciate you. So that first plane gets in the air, no problem. And we are on our way. And we're coming in a little bit early. So I'm like, this is great. Definitely going to make my connector. I'm good. Let me pause the story here. I want to check your chat. All right. Dove Season, good to see you. Bacon's good to see you. Right. So this is where, this is where things are going to get interesting. So, all right. So I make it to Charlotte and plenty of time to make my connector, right? So turn on my phone, and Mrs. Sarge has sent me about 10 texts. And she says, there's a big problem. Charleston, which is the airport that I need to get into, is not letting any flights in or out. Apparently, one of the sheriff's police helicopters crashed near the airport, and they shut down the airport. Now, first things first, my understanding is that the pilot is okay, and that's the most important thing here. Really happy to hear that. And there was some kind of malfunction with the helicopter. It wasn't a pilot error; it was a malfunction with the helicopter. But so he's okay as far as I know. But there's no flights getting in and out of Charleston. And I can tell you, having lived here, that things operate very, very differently than they do in Charleston. So just as an example, if you get into if there's a car accident on the highway in Boston, even for fatalities, they will do everything they can to keep one lane open so that stuff is moving. So like, plow will come along and move all the debris over to the side or something. They don't do that here in Charleston. If there's an accident on the freeway, nobody going nowhere. Okay. And the same thing happens here with the airport. Nobody going nowhere. So I get to my gate and I'm texting Mrs. Sarge and we're trying to figure out what am I going to do so I can get home, and get to the gate, and it's shoulder to shoulder. Like there's a lot of more people in this gate than should be. So I find a spot, kind of chill out for a minute. My plane is sure enough is delayed. Nothing I can do yet. I have to kind of wait and see what happens. So I'm listening to people talk, and it turns out that another plane from Charlotte going to Charleston made it all the way from Charlotte to Charleston, and then was told you can't land. You have to turn around. So they came back to Charlotte and told all the passengers you have to disembark and and find yourself another plane, basically. So my gate now is filled with everybody that's trying to get to Charleston, and people are getting agitated. And I'm just kind of watching people at this point. And near me was one mom with two toddlers who, God bless her, you could tell that they'd been in the airport all day long. They were probably on that first flight, and everybody's doing their best. But like now, you ask toddlers to stay in some small area like that all day long without their stuff, and that's asking a lot. So mom's looking like she's having a hard time. Kids are looking like they're having a hard time. It's just like there's a lot of tension in the gate. So then I'm just keep texting Mrs. Sarge because she's got local news, and I could pull that up on my phone, but it's going to chew up, data and battery. So she's kind of monitoring that for me. And I said, let me know if you see if they're going to clear it and flights are going to come in and out. Otherwise, I'm staying the night here in Charlotte, or I'm going to have to rent a car, which at this point, it's not terribly far. I could drive it home. So eventually they clear it, and they, hey, Maccabee, it's good to see you. Appreciate you. So eventually they clear it, and flights are starting to be able to get into Charleston again. So now I get in line, and I have a guaranteed seat, mind you, right? My ticket has a seat. And I get up to be checked in, and like I'm ready to get on the plane, and she's your ticket is incorrect. Really? Really? So she tells me to step out of line, and I'm keeping my composure and keeping my anger in check, although I'm feeling it now. Which, remember that, because we're going to talk about that at the very end of this live stream, about anger and the importance of recognizing like your triggers and that kind of stuff. But I'm feeling it, and I'm ready to lose my temper, which again, maybe not her fault, but just, what I'm saying? You start to get really frustrated with like the whole experience. So then I see her kick somebody else out of line. She says, "Oh, your ticket's no good. You got to step out of line." So while I'm waiting there with my my no longer functional ticket, which I was supposed to have a guaranteed seat that I paid for, is not in my hand because she's now taken that away. Hey, Gunville, it's good to see you. Appreciate you. So now I'm waiting there, and she does hand me another ticket. But instead of being in seat 12D, now I'm in 33F. Okay, that's fine. I get to go home. It's a short flight, whatever, So this is, if you don't know, that's the very last row of the plane. Seats are even smaller than the small seats in the American Airlines. And let me tell you, American Airlines, you got some terribly small seats. I'm not a huge guy. I'm maybe slightly taller than average. Your seats are a problem. So I'm in the very last row. And so as we're pushing back there, so if you've ever been on a plane, you know what it's like as you're boarding on the plane. Everybody's trying to push to their seat. It's, it's a one-way row. You cannot go back. And comes this guy, he's trying to push back against the crowd. So the woman in front of me says, you have to back up. I says, I got no more room to back up. There's no more backing up. I can't pull over anymore. I've already pulled over. Right. So he's like, now he starts like crawling over people in seats. And now like, I've just about had it. And I look at him and I had to say something. I'm like, did you miss your seat, buddy? Like, what happened? And he goes, no, I went back and somebody's in my seat with the same ticketed number that I got. American Airlines, you got problems. You got serious problems. That should not happen. So I apologize to the guy. I say, I'm sorry. That's terrible. And I hope you get it squared away. So I get back to my seat now wondering like, oh geez, are they going to have two people with my seat? Am I going to have to, basically get kicked off this flight or the other person's going to have to get kicked off the flight. And so I'm sitting there, nobody's coming back. I'm like, oh, phew, at least I'll have like an empty seat next to me. Nope. So wouldn't you know that the two guys that they assigned to the back row with me are also slightly larger than average men. So the three of us are now crammed into the smallest row on the plane. Poor management, American Airlines. You should have a better system for this. And we're all just like, all right, whatever. It's a short flight. Let's just get through this. We all were kind to each other, doing our best to share the little bit of elbow space, but it was not a pleasant flight. I really hope I get a satisfaction survey on this one, but somehow I haven't seen that yet. Yeah, shocking, right? So anyways, last part of this story, and then we're going to go into our tips and tricks. Last part of the story. So we get to Charleston and I get off. Now I had not checked a bag. Thank God I did not check a bag because it probably would have been lost. It would be in JFK or something like that. So, but Mrs. Sarge usually picks me up near the end of the airport where, like right outside of baggage claim. That's our spot where we pick each other up. So I can start heading down towards that way, and there's hundreds of people. Now, this is unusual for Charleston Airport. There's hundreds of people at baggage claim because all these flights that had been waiting to get in that couldn't get in because of the helicopter crash are now everybody landed within a short period of time and everybody wants their baggage. And now we got people getting agitated again and it was bad vibes. So I'm like, you know what? I'm done dealing with this. Texted Mrs. Sarge. I said, don't even pick me up at the usual spot. I'm going to find a different spot. Walked down a little bit. I found a different spot for her to pick me up. And as she picked me up, as we drove by baggage claim, I just kind of pointed and I said, look in there. And she was like, whoa, never seen it like that. I said, yep. I said, that's why I didn't have you pick me up over there. So dove season has got a good tip here. Yeah. This is critical, is get to the airport much earlier than you think you're going to need to. And when you're booking flights, if you can, pay close attention to those layovers. If you have a layover, if you can avoid a layover, even better. Sometimes you have to take a layover. Pay attention to them. And if you can pick one that's got more than 30 minutes, I advise you to do so. Running through an airport that's crowded and screaming, passing on your ride or whatever, and hoping that somebody doesn't like step in your lane and send you flying. And then you get to your gate and you're sweating profusely and like everybody's looking at you because you're the last one boarding on the gate. None in that gate. So none of that is fun. So honestly, that's a problem with the airlines, that they should not be booking them that close together for layovers. But since they're probably not going to fix it, try to do what you can to try to pay attention to that. I did not from that, but I should have been handing out stickers. That would have been great. And you know what? That's a missed opportunity, Bacon. I should have told people like, hey, I'm going to be talking about this on my live stream. Here's my channel. Follow me. That would have been a smart play. No, I have not seen that, Lee, but I have seen that in some other airports like Louisville and Cincinnati. That's happened to me. Just checking your chat here, guys, seeing if I missed anything. All right, so what do I do to make it more, because it's getting more and more like this. This was probably my third or fourth trip so far since post-pandemic, we'll say that. So actually it's probably more like 6 post-pandemic. So knowing that this is like our new norm, right? Airport chaos is the new norm. I don't see this getting any better for a number of reasons. We apparently, a lot of people in the airlines industry retired during the pandemic, and they have not hired significant amount of replacements, especially in certain areas. I believe they're short on pilots, and they're short on mechanics, and probably some other things as well. I heard some of the TSA agents talking about like shortages in their area too. That might be just Logan, I don't know. But so that's part of the problem. There seems to be like a lot of the fleets are older and are requiring more and more maintenance, which is a little bit of a scary issue if you don't like flying. There was problems with the software earlier this year. There was problems with the pilot scheduling software for some of the airlines earlier this year. So it's just, everything's a cluster fluff right now, and it's a mess, and it's not going to be better anytime soon. You know, if maybe a couple of years down the road, it'll be back to baseline, but maybe not. You know, maybe this is the new normal. So when I travel, there's a few things that I always have in my carry-on. For number one, it doesn't matter what you put in your checked bag if you're checking a bag, because you're not going to get it out once you check. You're not getting it out of the airplane once you're at your gate or whatever. You know, once you've checked that bag. So what you carry on and your personal items, that's what matters, and that's what you need to be thinking about. Like, am I going to be stranded 24 hours in an airport? What do I need, right? So we're going to talk about some of that stuff. I always, in my carry-on, have a change of clothes, and it doesn't have to be anything nice. Like, I roll up a pair of sweatpants, extra pair of socks, a t-shirt, underwear, and so then I know, like, at least I have one clean change of clothes. Couple little hygiene items so I can clean up if I had to in the restroom, right? A little stick of deodorant, maybe a little bit of soap, some Purell, some toothpaste, right? That's going to make the quality of life a whole lot better. Could you do with those things? Absolutely. They're not necessities, they're luxuries, but they will make you feel a lot better if you have a clean change of clothes and you've got a little way to clean up while you're in the airport. Cash. Yeah, that's what scares me, Wayne. That's what scares me. Yeah, and that's interesting, isn't it? That they're trying to get people to come out of retirement. So what else? So depending on how sensitive you are to like cold and hot, you know, you might want to have a little windbreaker or something small that you can put in there, or at least a hat. It's not a bad idea to have a hat. What else? I always have a little bit of sunblock in case I do have to leave the airport, because I'm just like really fair skinned, as you can see, so I burn super easy. So I always have a little bit of sunblock with me. Cash, always have a little bit of cash. Like, yeah, most places you pay with card, but there are some situations where you might need cash. Okay, so always have, you know, I would say you have to decide what makes sense for you, but I would say minimum of 100 in small bills, $100 traveling with, right? So you need that. Next one, super important. Like, a lot of people will pack away their medications and in their checked bag, and there's a lot of ways that can go wrong. Number one, if you're stuck in the gate or the terminal, they're not getting your bag out for you. It's not going to happen. So now you're without your medication. So those need to be on your carry-on. Also, when you get to your destination, bags do get lost. I have a friend who's a pilot, but before he was a pilot, he worked in various positions in the airport because he wanted to know the industry in and out. And I was told by a very reliable source that it is not uncommon for your luggage to just get thrown in a dumpster. I know you've seen those things on TV where, like, this is where your lost luggage ends up. Some of it does. Some of it just ends up in a dumpster. So be aware that you might not get your medications if you pack them away in your checked bags. Carry on, which is going to lead me to the commercial segment of this live stream. So Did you know that you can, through Jace Medical, get a year's supply of your medications? And there is a link in the description, and there's a coupon code in the description if you want to use that. Jace Medical not only does emergency antibiotics, which you can get a prescription for before you're sick so that you have it when you're ready, but for most prescriptions, and they're constantly adding more, including mental health medications, heart medications, seizure medications, diabetes medications, you can get a 12-month supply through Jace Medical. Check them out in the description down below. All right, so travel with your medications in your carry-on. I carry a water bottle. And what I do, I don't fill it at the fountains. I know a lot of travel experts will tell you to just fill it at the fountains and save yourself a couple dollars. I will spend a couple dollars and fill it with bottled water, because here's why. I have sat while I was waiting for a flight in front of one of those fountains where people are filling up their water bottle and watched children sneeze on it, and nobody's cleaning it. I've seen little children put their mouth right on it. I've seen people of all ages cough on the thing. I'm gonna buy my bottled water and spend that extra couple dollars and have the peace of mind. But if you don't worry about those things, then by all means fill up from the water fountain. But I carry a stainless steel water bottle, fill it up once I get past security with, for me, bottled water. What else? A couple snacks, right? So like, imagine you got to go 24 hours in the airport without, and you don't want to spend $25 for a burger because airport food is jacked up. There's a high premium that's put on top of it. Well, having a couple snacks might save the day there, or it's at least going to cut down on the amount of food you're going to have to apply. You're going to have to buy past the security gate. So I carry granola bars because they travel well, and you could fit 3 in your carry-on, 3 granola bars, and that could potentially be your lunch, dinner, and breakfast the next morning. You're not going to die. You might be a little bit hungry, but it's going to get you through. Some suggestions here. Let me check this out. All right. So Bacon says underwear, socks, toiletries, cash are all things I carry every trip I go on. They don't take up a ton of space and can come in very handy. Absolutely. Looks like Wayne's got some of the same ideas as me. Change of clothes, book. So that's a really good idea if you're a big reader, and if you don't want to chew on your battery on your phone. I usually don't bring a book with me. Sometimes I bring a magazine because it's smaller and can lay flat, and I listen to audibles on my phone. But be aware of the charge on your phone, especially if it looks like your flight's going to be delayed. Make sure you've got your charger with you. And also, I put a power bank in my carry-on because a lot of airports, Logan being one of them, still has many areas where they have not upgraded their gates, and there's not a lot of plugs to find. So if you've got a packed house like I had, you might not be able to get a plug to plug your phone in. So have a battery bank. Bottled water, cash, earbuds, power bank, good choices. Gum, pen. I like pen and notepad too. I keep a very small pen and notepad on my carry-on. And normal EDC. For me, obviously, that's minus your knife. You can't bring your knife on the carry-on, but you can bring small grooming scissors, right? So every survivalist will tell you should always have some kind of cutting utensil. So mini grooming scissors under a certain size, the blade has to be it's less than, I don't want to say because I might be wrong, small. You can check TSA regs to get that. So I've got something that's I can cut things with if I need to, some way to start a fire. And you check your TSA regs because those things are always changing. But like for example, my Wazoo necklace that usually travels with me, and you can start a fire with that. I carry a little flashlight with me on the airport. Actually, let me show you. I think I got it right here. So let's say that there's an emergency on the plane and for some reason the lights go out. How many people do you think on your plane have a flashlight? Only your preppers, right? Only your preppers. So the one I carry, and I like a lot of different flashlights. I've talked about Powertac before. I'm a brand ambassador for Powertac. This one here is made by 511, and I think this one might be discontinued, but this is my airport one. There's no, let's see if I can show it in the camera. There's no sharpness to the bezel, which is something like TSA might reject. It is aircraft aluminum, so it's pretty sturdy. I could probably, if I had to, break something with this, leave it at that. And this is just AA. Triple A's is triple A's, and it's 90 lumens, so it's fairly bright. This fits in my pocket, so when I go through security, this is in my bag. As soon as I get through security, this is in my pocket and it stays on my person until I get to my destination. It's part of your EDC. But there's another one here. Let me show you the other one. This is also good. This is also good. This one is through, this is a Powertac one, and it's a little bit, so I'll show you the size comparison. So this one is just one AA, right? You can get the idea. So this is a good one too. I don't remember which model this is. I think it's the Saber. This is Powertac Saber, and I've got a discount code in description down below if you want to check them out. Let's see. What else are we forgetting? If you can't carry on for a week-long trip, you may want to think. Yeah, so most of the time, if I'm traveling, that I think I know what you're saying here. Most of the time when I'm traveling, I try to do just what I can do carry on. It doesn't always work that way, of course, but that's what I try to do. Yep. So that's another reason. That's a great point there. All right, Fox. That's another reason why you carry some of your own food and don't rely on the airport. I've gotten into airports when it's like really late at night and everything's closed as well. There is no food to be found, so you better have something on you. And yeah, you're not going to die from one day without food, but it sure is going to make things a lot more comfortable. So, Maccabeus here says a loaf of bread, bologna and cheese. I'm good for a couple days. It will keep 3 days if you keep flies out of it. And if you had been at this airport in Charlotte, you could have made a lot of people happy by making them some bologna and cheese sandwiches, brother. Yep, definitely carry your plugs with you for your phone. Yep, and we talked about the power banks. Oh, yeah, and definitely, yeah, that's a comfort item for me. Fingernail clippings. I can't stand when you get like one of those little hangnails. That's like a really that'll irritate the crap out of me, and I'm not one of those guys that'll like rip it off with my teeth. So fingernail clippers. Yeah, and that might be worth doing a stream on, Wayne. I thought about it myself. So I had a family member recently have to travel to, I'm going to kind of change some details here just to protect the person, had to travel to an unsafe part of the world. I'll just say it like that. And was asking me, and he was flying as a civilian. He was flying me like, what are some of the ideas that I had for like, what could he bring for personal protection? So some of my suggestions to him was a padlock and a chain, a cane. Obviously one like a flashlight, like I just showed you, the longer one, things like that. But check TSA guidelines and make sure what you're bringing on is not going to get you in trouble. That flashlight, both of those that I just showed were battery operated. They're not like standard AAA, not rechargeable. Although I don't think it's recommended with some of those newer flashlights. I don't think it's recommended to use the rechargeable flashlights. Would it do anything? I don't know. I probably, if I was in a pinch, I would try it. Sure. All right, cool. Good suggestions, everybody. All right, so what else? So we talked about if you're pay attention to the signs, and if you see that there's a delay, be one of the first people to get up there and get your stuff squared away, because you don't want to be like the 15th, 20th, 100th person in line. You're probably not going to like what they're offering you. When you get to your gate, try to find a cozy corner and like basically create your space as best you can. Don't block a seat if it's crowded. Obviously, everybody wants to sit, but if you know that you're going to be stuck there for hours, or that you might be stuck there overnight, try to find the spot that's going to look most comfortable to you. You might be able to use your little windbreaker or your sweatshirt to make a little makeshift pillow if you had to. Obviously, we talked about staying hydrated with water, having some snacks with you. Wayne and a couple other people said entertainment, right? So I talked about sometimes I have a magazine, but I'm usually listening to an Audible or podcast and stuff like that. So what's going to keep you entertained? And if you're traveling with kids, you got to figure that in too, right? So some little card games or toys or something like that that's going to hold their attention for several hours. One option to think about, I don't have membership in one of the lounges, but I've heard that they're really cool. I've heard that like sometimes they have free snacks in there and like big screen TV and comfortable chairs. So if you travel a lot, maybe it is worth it for you to pay for it. And some credit cards offer that as a perk, that you can get access to, like say the JetBlue Lounge and things like that. I've never used them, but I've heard good things about them, especially if like you're going to be in there for a long time. Keep an eye on the updates. Talked about that. Also, make sure you're getting the alerts on your phone, because sometimes, here's what's funny, is sometimes it doesn't go on the board at the gate right away, but somehow the alerts are coming through, or you're getting email too, right? So you have to kind of watch all of these. Sometimes one comes through faster than the others. And again, speed is a priority here because you want to be one of those first people in line to get your ticket squared. If you're going to be in there for a long time, move around, stretch, go for a walk, especially if you can trade out, like if you can leave your luggage with the person you're traveling with and say, hey, I'm going to go for a walk. When I come back, you go for a walk, because that will help, deal with some of the irritability and, just the body fatigue that you get from being in one spot for a long time. Maybe you can get some work done or school work done if you're in school. It just depends on how much of that you can do through your phone or your computer. But that's a good way to kill time. I went through my emails and stuff like that. Don't be afraid to talk to other people there, so other strangers, because like sometimes somebody has more information about what's going on than you. In the case of the Charlotte to Charleston flight, I was the one in that gate that had the most information because I was getting fed information from Mrs. Sarge. So I was telling the people around me like what's going on. And it can help with morale, or if somebody has to make alternative plans. When I get to the airport really early, the first thing I do is I walk around the airport and see like where are the bathrooms? Is there a quiet space? Is there, which a lot of airports now have these like rocking chair quiet spaces, which are away from the gates. So if like you're getting irritable, go sit in one of those rocking chairs and watch the planes leave and land and take off and stuff like that. Sometimes some airports have good charging stations, some don't. So you have to kind of walk around and see what's available, what restaurants are good. And I would say put your airline's customer service in your phone, so that you're not like, when everybody is all of a sudden, oh, we need to call JetBlue, you don't want to be the one that's looking for the number. You've already got it programmed. All right, Scorpion Metals, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Well, that's cool, Wayne. I've not been willing to risk it, and I appreciate that you need to be discreet about it. All right. Yeah, and that's a great way to pass the time. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. I almost forgot that. So, if you know your airport, if you know you're going to be stuck in there for a while and you might not be able to charge up your phone, definitely go into low power mode. When I do that, I tell Mrs. Sarge, you should, in theory, be able to still get your texts and stuff like that. I have had one incident where I had it in low power mode and my text didn't come through until I put it back up to power mode. Not sure why that is. It's above my pay grade, but low power mode can definitely buy you a lot more time if you're not going to be able to charge up your phone. So that's a really good suggestion there. And if you're just listening to an Audible, there's no reason why you can't be in low power mode. All right, folks, if you got any other suggestions out there, go ahead and throw them in now, because I'm going to start winding this one down. I want to, in summary, I think this mess with these airports is going to be going on for a while. And it's really important that you be aware of this and be prepared for it. Don't just, at this point, I can't in good consciousness suggest to somebody that's about to travel, like, oh yeah, you're going to get there fine. There's not going to be any problems, because realistically, there's going to be problems. And that's the new norm. And that's the attitude I'm trying to adopt for myself, to just expect problems. Right. And then if it doesn't happen, I'll be pleasantly surprised. And when it does happen, I won't be disappointed. So see, I knew it. But have some, think about, like, if I really was going to be trapped in this gate for 24 hours, what do I want with me? What do I need with me? What's going to make this more comfortable? What's going to make this more enduring? And really, it's almost like, for me, if you've seen that video that I did about my airport survival kit, that kit could pretty much take me almost anywhere in the world, and I'd have some pretty good resources with me, right? That survival kit. Even if like the plane, God forbid, crashed in the Andes or something crazy like that, I would have some survival kit with me, some gear that would be very helpful. So check out that video. I'll try to, I'll try to, you know what? Let's go ahead and throw it in chat. Hang on one second. Bear with me. We'll just give it to you now. Yep, there it is. Okay, it's coming up right now. Share, copy link. All right. There you go. So that's my TSA survival guide, a survival kit right there in chat. And if you're watching this on replay, I'll try to put it in the description for you as well. All right. Let me wind this one down. And again, I think this is just something to be aware of. It's not going away anytime soon. We're in this at least for a while. So make sure you are, when you're traveling, you are prepared as best you can be to deal with these kind of situations. So the last thing I want to say for today, I always try to end in a in the Las Vegas airport. Wayne's talking about Denver airport. Atlanta airport can be pretty problematic. Not Logan. Logan can be sometimes too. Las Vegas airport, I've had a lot of problems getting out of Las Vegas airport. They get, like, their security line can get really backed up, and it's just crazy when it happens. But you got to be prepared for this stuff. So earlier in the stream, I was talking about like managing my anger, right? And being aware of triggers. So if you on Instagram today, in one of my stories, I did a little short video about, as a therapist, I get a lot of people referred to me over the course of my career who want to work on their anger management. And they will say, I can't control it. I can't control it. I go from 0 to a 10 fast. There's no time to do deep breathing or anything like that. Well, I felt that way too in the past, and I have had to learn to get better about dealing with my anger. So here's the thing that I would say to you. Number one, everybody can learn to control your anger, even if you feel like you can't, but it's challenging. And you have to be aware of your triggers, right? So when we have those incidents where we get reactive and we go from 0 to 10 really fast, it's because something hit a trigger. And everybody's got triggers. Everybody's got triggers. I've got triggers. You may not think you have triggers. I promise you got triggers. Spend a few days in therapy with me. We'll find your triggers. And when those are hit, that's when we get reactive, right? And so why does that happen? I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version of the psychology of this. So our triggers a lot of times have to do with past traumas, but also has to do with core beliefs that we adopt from the ages of 4 to, say, 10 years old. Right. So, for example, one of the core beliefs that was taught in my family growing up was you don't hit girls. Right. That was really instilled in me. And I had 2 older sisters. And so that was what was taught to me. You don't hit girls. And so that became a thing, a mantra for me that that's a sacred rule. You don't hit girls. Right. Then I took martial arts. And for those of you who've ever taken martial arts, what happens? The men and the women train together, right? And so I had a really hard time, adjusting to that and doing techniques on the women, because my core belief was that you don't ever do this. And so my instructor, this was my second instructor, who was a female kickboxer, professional. At one point, she was a professional kickboxer. I think at that point she was a 5th degree black belt. I think she's like a 7th degree black belt now. She pulled me aside and she's like, you got to do these techniques on the women in the class. And I said, but I was taught not to hurt girls, not to hurt women. And she said, these women are in this class to learn how to defend themselves from bad guys out there. And you need to show them that the techniques can work. They need to learn this. So I said, okay, I'll work on it. But it was really hard for me. That's a trigger for me. And so we all have things like that from our childhood, right? About how the world is supposed to function, the rules that we're taught. And when those are violated, even in subtle ways, that's a trigger, right? So you can have an anxious reaction, you can have an agitated reaction, you can get fight, flight, freeze, all of the above, but you need to be aware of them. And a lot of times we think what we think is the trigger isn't it. It's something that goes further back, right? So like I may say, I get triggered by people saying that, okay, so I may say I get triggered by people telling me they're going to do something and then they don't do it, which actually is true. I don't like that. It really gets on my nerves. But if somebody tells me they're going to do something and then they don't do it, I used to get really triggered by it and I would get angry, like irrationally angry. And it turned out like I have a good reason for that. I had to do my own therapy to figure this out. I thought it was I just don't like when people say one thing and do something else. That wasn't it at all. It actually went back to some childhood stuff that I had to work out. And as soon as I got it, I was like, oh my gosh, that all makes sense now. And every time in my life that I was getting angry about that, that's what it was about. So that's how triggers work. So you need to figure out what those are. And then when you have that awareness, it does make it easier to put some space between your emotional feeling and your reaction, right? So when somebody says, oh, I'm sorry, sir, your ticket with your guaranteed seat is not a guaranteed seat, I don't immediately flip out. Right? I can take that space and say, okay, I need to wait and see how this thing plays out. And she's not responsible for that. Clearly, there's some kind of error here. Maybe they can get it fixed for me, right? So, like, you start putting that space in between the emotion and the reaction, and more rational thinking will start to come in. And everybody is capable of this. There's no such thing as saying, I can't control my anger. You just haven't learned to control your anger yet because it's a trigger and you're going from 0 to 60 fast. Okay. That's the word for the day. That's my positive message for you. And think about it. Think about how you apply this in your life. All right. All right, everybody. I hope you had a great week. I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. If you enjoyed this, if you got anything of value, please consider giving a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out everybody in chat. Everybody here that I saw commenting, or most of the people commenting, were content creators. All have great channels. Some of them are preppers as well. You'll get some good information there, I promise. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Please take good care of yourselves. Hug your loved ones. Work on that anger management. It's definitely going to help you. Keep planting your seeds. Keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge.